Welcome back to another edition of Make It Go Better Jensen Healey. Our project today is to replace the cam seals. As you can see, I've done the valve covers. Very happy with that. I had to do it twice, of course, and second time lucky. It's looking very good. So we've started stripping everything off. We're going to have to take the belt off, and I was never happy with to the back of the pulleys, so I want to try to rectify that. I'll either put the old belt back on and try that, or probably reverse this belt. It's a brand new belt. The deal is, when you get these cars, the first thing you do is you replace the belt, because you don't know how old it is. The belt is a cheap part, but if you ever do have a belt break, you will destroy your engine. It's a little insurance policy. So again, this is a brand new belt. It maybe has 10 kilometers on it now, but I want to line it up on these pulleys properly. The other thing I could do was strip the pulleys off the other Jensen Healey and put it on this one, because they are better quality. But let's see what we can do with these ones first. It may mean taking this apart again and redoing it, but it's not that difficult. It probably took me 25-30 minutes to get this far at the most. It's not a big deal. Let's look at a couple of things. So we have our alignment marks all lined up to where we had before. You can see the white one on the ignition belt. But look at the crank. The crank is off. Yeah, it's way out. So why would that be out compared with the valves? There's a problem with this pulley, and the keyway is a little bit loose, and I did notice it flops back and forth. I do have two spares that I could put on, and I think I may do that at some point. It wasn't running great, and I really question whether the timing is bang on or not, and so that bothers me. So we'll undo this bolt and we'll pull it off and we'll have a look. But here's the problem. When I try to undo this bolt, it tends to turn the crankshaft even with it in gear, and it throws my timing out on the cams. I don't want that. I want those two white marks to stay exactly where they are, because I'm going to have to disassemble those two cams to get at the cam seals. Sorry about the wind noise. That's just the way it is here. So as you can see, if I try to loosen this nut, and I think it goes without saying, just a reminder to get the cam bolts out. You really want to do it when the belt is on, it's tight, and the engine is in gear, or else you're going to have no way to untorque those bolts. Same with putting it back together. So I've untorqued these, and well, I can't, no depth of field. So in theory, they're loose, ready to come off. Okay, so next time you see this, the cams are going to be off, and you'll notice that I've marked these intake and exhaust for two reasons. You can flip these wheels over and get them backwards, and number two, I don't want to mix them up so that I get my timing marks. And my timing marks are very close to the 110, 110. And if you don't know if you can see the 115, the 115 was for exhaust emissions in the US, and the 110 was the standard. So I'm not going to change it right now. I'm just going to leave it where those timing marks are, which I set before when I changed the belt. Okay, let's take it all apart, and let's get at those cam seals. Okay, and just for reference, we're going to do a comparison of belt tightness. So we'll do before and after and see how much that flexes. That seems a bit too loose. It's only supposed to be about 1/4 of an inch. Let's look at the Hulk's engine and see what it looks like. Here we are at the Hulk's engine. And this belt feels about the same, actually. Interesting thing is, you'll see there's actually lettering still on this belt, so you wonder how good this belt might be. Probably been sitting in the car for 20 years though, so decent enough to run the engine, but I wouldn't trust it. The thing I do like about this engine, when I feel these wheels, there's no wear on that one, and there's no wear on these ones. I would really like to transfer these over, and I'm going to debate whether to transfer these over right now and run them with these as opposed to the ones I have on it. I'll have to consider that. Well, as you can see, I have the whole front end ripped apart. I've discovered a few interesting things. I'm still wondering about the belt adjuster. There you are. And I'm wondering if the cam on the front aligns perfectly with the cam on the back. Is that the reason that my belt is misaligned when I put it on? I'll be experimenting with that later. I don't have to put the engine all back together to test that. All I need to do is put the belt on. I probably should put the pulley back on the front, but really I think I could just put the belt on, get it tight enough, and then turn the engine over a few times and see if the belt aligns. I would really like to pull that completely off, clean it, examine it, check the bearings, but it doesn't want to come off. It's kind of stuck. Maybe it might be a project for another day. I'll experiment with that. I did discover something though that I found rather interesting with the bottom cam seal. Let's have a look at that. I noticed that this cam seal, which it's not the one that's leaking, you can almost see it. The lip on the left is higher than the lip on the right. That cam seal was never put in properly. It's uneven. When you tap them in, you're supposed to tap them in evenly all the way around to get them to seal properly. Well, the pulleys came off fairly easily. They took a little bit of leverage and tugging. My biggest worry now, I don't know if it's a worry or not, when I get the cam seals out, are my shafts going to be clean or is there going to be some rust on them? Only way to find out is to pull that seal and find out. I was going to use the screwdriver method on the top. And what that involved is taking a screwdriver, ramming it in there, and then prying up on it, and then prying out. Well, just like you would with a regular seal puller. I don't like that idea. I don't like the thought of anything metal touching that cam. Why? Because it scratches. If it can scratch, then you're hosed, because that's just going to destroy the next cam seal that goes in. I did come up with something though. Here's just a little piece of mylar plastic, and on my spare cam cover I was able to get it in. I was able to actually wedge it in. But when I tried wedging it in with this one, it wasn't so easy. Right, so the idea is to get that wedged in under the seal, so when you put your screwdriver in, you're not actually touching the cam. But I sort of tried to get that in there and it wouldn't go. So I'm going to use the other method. And the other method is to drill a hole and put a wood screw in. So you can see a test hole that I drilled here. And that's the size of the hole you want to drill and right about where you want to drill it. You put a screw in, right, just a regular sheet metal or wood screw, and then you use that screw head to pry out the seal. And this tends to work great, and you're not touching the cam at all. You're just touching the seal. This one has an interesting little blemish, if you can see it. Do you see that hole? Somebody has driven a small tipped screwdriver in and pried this seal out that way. That appears to be another way of doing it. See, that hole goes all the way through. Somebody has taken some kind of a tool and punched that in to get some leverage on the inside of the seal. So these seals are basically a piece of aluminum that are coated with the rubber, and then the inside is just rubber. This one is so hard that if you try to move it, it breaks. These seals are supposed to be soft, not rock hard like this one. So this one is, or was, completely junk, which is why it was pulled. They should be soft, and I think over time these seals just basically harden up and they stop doing their job, which is sealing the camshaft. Okay, let's drill our holes and try to pull one of these, and we'll see what happens. Well, so here's the big test. We've got our hole drilled, we've got our screw augered in. I can make it a little bit tighter. Now the question is this going to be enough to actually pull this out? Let's see if we can get some movement. We're going to hook it onto here and use this as a lever. You notice I've used a flat-headed screw. One of the problems is I used a bigger screw, and I'm wondering if I've drilled this hole too big. Let's see if we can get this to move at all. Using this point of my cam as a leverage, I've got a nice flat head here so it doesn't slip off. Let's try and pull this out. Here we go. It's moving, it's moving, it's moving. Let's keep going. And it's pulled the hole out, but we have some it looks promising. Let's use a bigger threaded screw now. One that's going to have a bit more bite. And we'll see if we can just pull that out manually. Let's go to the top of the head here. See if we can't get some leverage on that. And here it comes. Here it comes. And we are basically out at this point. We can get a screwdriver behind that as well. And there we go. Done. Here we go. There's our seal. It has been removed. Now we're going to clean up that shaft, inspect this seal, see how, yeah, it's hard as a rock. Hard as a rock. These seals are both done. So these seals are both going to get replaced. This method seems to work okay. I think the hole is the right size. Maybe I'll use a little bit smaller drill. Okay, let's pull the other one out, and then we're going to show you how we put these back in. Okay, so now with the old seal out, we're just going to clean. I have done a wipe, and I'm going to do a final rinse of the inside of the where the seal is going to go. I just want to get any loose oil, metal bits, everything, and it's looking pretty good there. Just do one more. I don't want anything in between. Oil, nothing. I used a nice clean Q-tip, and I don't see anything coming off, so I think we're good. So here's the new seal, and I'm going to try not to touch the edge if I can. I want that edge to be clean. What I'm going to do is just run a little bit of oil around that inside, and I'm going to slip it on, and we're going to show you how you tap it on. Okay, so I'm going to get the seal, and I'm going to just put a little bit of very tiny amount of oil just on the seal itself. I don't like to put it on the shaft because it'll drip on the inside, so I just want to put a bit on here. Notice I'm trying to not touch the outside edge if I can. Clean my fingers a bit. And let's slide that on again. Now I'm going to have to use 2 fingers here. You can see that little bit of oil. And there we go. So the key here now is to use our ABS tool. You see it's like a, what is it, a 2-inch ABS? I'm not sure the measurement of it, but it fits around this perfectly. See how that fits perfectly? So what we're going to do now is we're going to tap that into place. Okay, so here we are. We've tapped it in a little bit, and I think the key to this is probably getting maybe a 2x4 around the end, and to get it to go in even. So this is going to take a bit of time. I'm going to stop the camera now, make sure I'm getting it to go in even, and then I'll finish the job off. Well, the unfortunate part is, yeah, the seal went in very easily. Took a lot of hammering, but I think I've made a bit of a mistake. In behind that seal is a oil return gallery that I noticed, just a hole in the back. Apparently there's 2 of them. Now the problem is people have found a rubber gasket in behind, or the other thing is if you push the seal in too far, you're going to cover that return. And as you can see, I think I've pushed the seal in too far. What does that mean? Well, it's so tight that there is really no way of getting that seal out without destroying it. I don't have a spare. I've only got 2. That one is not leaking at the moment, so this wasn't such a big job to get everything apart. And I'm thinking to get the car going, I might just put it back together and see how it goes. Now, what typically has happened, the oil pressure gets too high behind that seal and it starts to puke out. So I'll know pretty soon whether I've blocked that return or not. That one on the bottom side is stuffed in a little bit, and it's poked out on that side. The problem is I've only got one seal left. So I could pull that one and replace it, or I could just run it, hope it works, and replace it later. What do you think? And if I replace that seal and don't have a spare, then I'm taking it apart anyway. It's a conundrum. I wish I had a spare seal, then I would just pull that one, I would redo it. For the cost of the seal, I'm not going to worry about it too much. The other thing is to try to get something in and pull that seal out. But my fear is I'm going to wind up wrecking it. It's only a soft seal on the outside. So really pulling on the rubber is not going to pull that seal out. But it's stuck in there, and it's stuck in there good. So I'll let you know what I decide. Yeah, just one hit too many. And now I'm buggered. What do I do now? Okay, I've decided to throw it back together and try it because I really do want to eventually change those pulleys anyway, but I won't do it right now. I'll make that my next job. So I'll just throw it all back together. I'll try it. If it leaks, it leaks. I have two choices. I can use the second seal on the top and leave the bottom. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to order up a couple more seals and have them shipped. Or see if somebody in the club has a couple of new ones, just to have them ready. And the next time I'll do it properly. So there's more work to do on this. So I will have this apart a second time and have another chance to replace both seals. So I'm going to leave the bottom one for now because it wasn't leaking. And then I can choose, if the top one does leak, I can tear it apart and just replace the top and order a couple of more. I suspect I'm probably blocking that return chamber, but I really don't want to try to pull it out because I'm just going to wreck it anyway. I did slip a small screwdriver in, and even that much, I might have buggered up the edge. So no, there's no way to pull that seal out just a little bit, not without destroying it. So I think I'm looking at this as a learning session, getting a new seal and redoing it sometime in the future. So let's throw it all back together and we will play with alignment of the timing belt.